Hi everyone, this is Chris Terrell with Everydayvba, and in this video we're going to be doing a overview of the Visual Basic Editor. If you want to write macros, if you want to code, if you want to do VBA in any of the Microsoft Office products, you're going to basically see the same Visual Basic Editor. So we're going to be looking at that today. We're going to look at the toolbar, we're going to look at the buttons, we're going to go over basically the different windows that are available, do a quick overview, and we will get you on your way to coding. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt F11. That's going to open up my coding window or my Visual Basic Editor. Now I could also go Developer and then hit Visual Basic. That works just as well. You'll see that in the VBE there is a file bar. You can save, you can import, you can export, you can edit. You've got a view. This is important because we're going to be adding the immediate window and the locals window. You've got insert. This isn't super important because you can actually do the same thing here. You can change your format. You've got some debug stuff. This also comes in the buttons. You can run, which also is in the buttons. You've got some tools, add-in manager, windows, etc. First thing we're going to do, this is how it comes in by default. So we are going to add the edit. We're going to move this over. We're going to add the user form. And we should be good to go. The reason I added that is because this I actually use quite a bit. The indenting and then commenting a block, which is basically turning that code off and then turning that code on. I'll show you what that looks like right here. So if I turn that off, it'll turn green. And when Visual Basic actually compiles that, it doesn't compile this as code. That's how you put in notes in your code. So do use that a lot. Let's go through our windows real quick. First one is this code window. Now this code window, it will typically have quite a bit of different open windows. So for example, if I wanted to see the code for this sheet, I would just double click on it and that would come open. Typically, you're going to have those maximized. You can minimize, you can make them smaller, you can make those changes. So that's the code window. The second window I want to go over is the VBA or the project window where it says VBA project. You'll notice that we have two books open. So we've got two workbooks called Book 1. You'll notice they're basically the same. But if I was to go in and open up another book, workbook, so if I came in here and I clicked on that, it opened up this workbook number 2. And if we hit Alt F11, we will notice that that actually shows up in our project window. This actually has every workbook that's open, including ones, if you have a personal workbook, which we will get into later, it will actually show that one as well, even though you may not ever even see that that workbook exists, but it actually does open. We'll dig into that later. So let's go to the properties sheet or properties window. So this is the properties for whatever you selected up here. So for example, if we want to change the name of this module because we don't like this name, we're going to call this Hello World because we want this module to be called Hello World, and that's going to rename it. You'll notice it renamed it. Quick check on this. If you put in a space, you're going to get an error. It says that's not a legal name. When you're in the project window and you're dealing with code or objects, it's not going to like those spaces. So if we look at the sheet, this makes a little bit more sense. So you'll notice that it's got a sheet name right here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to rename this sheet to First Macro. When I hit enter, you'll notice that this will actually change there as well. So I hit enter. I'm on book 2, which is why that didn't show up. You'll notice that that actually changed. So we're going to go back here. You'll notice it changed up there as well. We're going to rename that sheet 1. And you'll notice it changed here. It also changed up there. Go back to First Macro. There's also a couple other objects. Now, what this properties window gives is it gives you kind of a high level view of things that you can actually change. So if we wanted to display page breaks, we could turn that on. If we wanted to enable an auto filter, we could add that. We could enable calculation or turn it off. We could enable outlining. We could enable pivot. We can name it like I showed you. We can actually even hide this. It actually won't let us hide it because there's only one sheet. But if we added a sheet, we could actually hide it, and then we would have to come in here and we would set it back to visible. Come back up there, click on that, make it visible. Okay, so we got a couple other windows. I'm going to look at the immediate windows and the local window. So if you click up here, we're going to add those. They are not added by default. So we're going to add the immediate window, and we're going to add the local window. And the reason I add the immediate window is the immediate window you can actually do inline code, which is just one line of code. So for example, if I wanted to know the name of the sheet, I would put a question mark because that will tell me, that will return a text. I'm going to go active sheet.name, and it's going to tell me what the active sheet of that name is. Now the other thing I could do is I could go active sheet dot visible equals 0, and you'll notice that I just ran, when I hit enter, it actually processed that code. Now we're going to go back to here. We're going to set this to visible, and it's back. You'll notice it's back. Okay, so let's look at the locals window. What the locals window is it'll give you basically view if we have variables in here. So we're going to have x equals 1. We're going to have s equals stuff, and these are just variables that I'm creating right here. So as I run this, you'll notice that within my code, hello world, I've got two variables. Now they're both empty, but when I hit F8, which walks me through this, I'm hitting F8 each row, it'll load what my macro or what my variables are. This is incredibly helpful when you have more complex projects that have different variables. It's very, very helpful. We're going to complete that. Now you'll notice if I hit F5, it's going to let me run that. It's going to run it really quick, and it's not going to show anything. And again, F5 will run the code. F8 will just have you go line by line, which is super helpful as well. Well, that's a quick overview of the Visual Basic Editor. Hope you enjoyed.